Jeff too.
What's up? And
Roller buds.
yeah, that's supper.
Yeah.
Stepfather. Last week we talked about Samson, his journey here, and we talked a lot about last week just about the comparisons between him and John the Baptist, and how that when John the Baptist was to Jesus, Samson was to David. And so there's a lot of comparisons that you see in relation to their life, but then what we're going to find is there's also a lot of contrast between the two. Oftentimes there's not, you folks don't catch as quick how Samson is to David what John the Baptist was to Jesus. Don't catch that as quick, but they will see contrast a lot quicker. So Samson is in many ways the physical aspect of strength, but we're going to find those strong spiritual aspect, not strong spirit, namely the Spirit of God, where John the Baptist, there's basically no description of him in terms of physical strength, but his spiritual strength was unlike him. So we're going to see them a lot as we move along here, a lot more of the contrast. Their prediction of their birth is alike. Their relationship with their parents is alike. Their dad's and father's questioning is alike. The naming of them before they were born is alike. There's a lot of commonalities in terms of all those things. And so, anyway, we see all of that. Chapter 14, actually 13:24. The woman gave birth to a son, named him Samson. The child grew up, and the Lord blessed him, and the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him in Dan between Zorah and Eshtaol. So, like again, John the Baptist, the Spirit of the Lord comes upon him. And the interesting thing about Samson, though, is that most people remember that when Delilah comes in and takes his strength, Samson doesn't realize that the presence of the Lord has left him. But when you read the story, if you Samson doesn't get an indication that the Spirit of the Lord is upon him and having moved forward. It just says that the Spirit of the Lord is upon him and he sort of acts afterwards. So, verse chapter 14. Samson went down to Timnah, saw a woman in Timnah, one of the daughters of the Philistines. So he came back and told his father and his mother, I saw a woman in Timnah, one of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me as a wife. Then his father and his mother said to him, is there no women among the daughters of your relatives or among all of our people, that you should go and take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines? But Samson said to his father, get her for me, for she looks good to me. However, his father and mother did not know that it was of the Lord, for he was seeking an occasion against the Philistines. Now at that time the Philistines were ruling over Israel. This is a good example where man makes a bad decision, and a decision that is not right in terms of what God designed going to get burned. And when you get burned, the only person that you'll end up looking at to blame is the person who that's going to be sad day for Samson. So all you guys here, not to say tonight we're going to do but it's to both pairs. It's to both pairs. If the other person can't live independently of you in a relationship with God, you should walk away until they can. Walk away until they can. Because you don't missionary date. Plain and fine. There's no way for you to know where that other person stands unless you're connected to them and you are trying to grow them in Christianity. And the reality is, before you become connected, there can be a part of being connected to Christ. You have tangible things that you can see in that other person, and if you can, walk away. If you don't believe me, you read Samson until it's ingrained in your spirit. And why I say that? Okay, I'm not going to just you guys. I'm going to both of you. Because I don't want you to face what Samson did. Don't think that you're stronger than Samson. He saw the life what he saw. His parents came and said, she's not in the same field as you. Abraham says, I need a daughter for Isaac. And where does he say go? Go to people who have the same principles, the same values, who are in the same field in what we are. That's where we have to go. Samson's not the case. It's not the case with Samson. So, morning one, he goes. And the scary thing is here is that God is going to have that happen. And you're going to use it for his purposes, but it's going to be destruction. It's going to be the end of life destruction. There's a better way. There's a better way in relation to that. Have I been clear on that? I've been serious about that. Yeah, so one of the value principle shouldn't be lost. It wasn't. There are some cultural differences. So he goes to his parents because the parents are going to go to this woman's parents, and they're going to, for lack of a better term, speak about negotiating this marriage. But that's basically a negotiation where it shows the value of that woman. Now, Samson's parents are going to go to negotiate for this bride for Samson. And how do I go? It's like this. You are going to go and ask for your parents' blessing on this marriage. You're going to go ask for blessing on this marriage. But the parents can't bless the marriage. She's not Christian. He's not Christian. What's that going to look like? In our state, the bride's parents, kind of pay for the wedding, if you will. But there's still this sort of connection that you try and kind of create. They're arranged, but see, Samson isn't. A lot of times people say, "Oh, Old Testament arranged marriages, kids have nothing to say." That's not what happens with Samson. Samson is the one who approached his parents about, "This is the woman that I want to marry."
How could they even negotiate? So they're not. So it's not a prearranged where the parents go to the other parents and say,
I didn't
yeah,
know it was prearranged.
yeah,
In the sense of what you were talking about, that the parents go to the parents of the girl, but we're just going to use that.
mm-hmm,
And then basically they find out the things that the son should find out before he even asked to
mm-hmm,
send them down there.
yeah,
You know, what's her beliefs, yada, yada, yada. But they get the parents' approval of that kind of constitutes an arrangement.
yeah.
For these two,
Yeah.
right, if they're right together, to be married.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Now so let's flip sides and go to the parent side of things. In America, parents do a horrible job in this. Yeah. We let our kids get, totally emotionally attached to a person to their significant other, and then we come up to them and say, "Yeah, I don't think this person's right for you." You've been together for how long? And now you're coming in and saying, "Hey, I don't think this person's right for you." The reality is, and it's a cultural thing, but the reality is, "Hey, mom, dad, going out on a date. Who is she? What's she like?" And if early on, this is for us, if early on there's not some sort of Christian talk, I'm already concerned. I'm already concerned. You're not asking for perfection from, and I've got one sitting in here that's engaged, right? So, I don't want to lose her, so I got to be careful what I say. The two of them are in that engaged. So we're there. Let's just dive on in. Okay, might as well. Yeah, we're knee deep, so let's just dive in. So we get so messed up on dating, engagement, and marriage. Dating, you're looking and seeing, is this person in a field that has the same values and principles as me, that we can work the same field together. And if you don't see that in dating, you have no right or reason to jump into engagement. In American culture, when we get engaged, we say it's a done deal. No, it's not. It's not a done deal. They now have the availability, and I've got obviously one and hopefully two here. They've got the availability now to say, look, we're talking about actually being in the same field, working the same crop, planting, preparing the same ground to plant the same seed, to work the same harvest in order that we might have a harvest to get the same fruit. And you may find in that engagement period, because see, when we're dating, we're working on me and me. And I'm looking at the other, and I want to see in the other that they're working on me and they're working on their relationship with God. I've got to see that independently of me, because we have no reason to be attached otherwise. When we're getting engaged, we're saying, I see that. So now we need to take some time and see and work on the third party. In every marriage or future marriage, there's three parties. There's male, there's female, and there's the marriage. And now we're looking at an engagement period of, yes, we're still working on me and me, but we're working to see, is we going to work? I mean, is we really going to work? Because now we may find some things that say, hold on, we have a relationship with Christ, we have a relationship with Christ, but the we on the values of some of that stuff is just so far off in two different directions that's just not going to work. I'm going to spend every dime I've got. I'm going to save everything I've got. I want 15 kids. I don't want any kids. Oh yeah, and I'm going to sign off and say, yeah, get married. No, we got to work through all of this stuff. It doesn't mean you're going to have everything lined out, but you can't walk into that thing and all of a sudden say, I mean, honestly, a good marriage counselor is trying to break the two of them up in some sense of saying, have you really considered all of these things? Because you're living in the daydream right now of two independent worlds. So now when we're coming together, we're working on the we. And so you come to a point in which we say, you know what? We believe before God, we've got relationship here with God. We have relationship with here before God. We've got an engagement period in which we're working on the we. We have differences. Absolutely, we've got differences. But we're both committed to working through those differences to be in the same field, plant the same seed, work the same ground, harvest the same, reap the same harvest. And so now I'm coming before God and before friends and family saying, I'm committing my life and all that I have to this other person. In that third party relation or third person relationship, the we part of that. Well, Samson's coming here saying, I see her and I like her, and they're saying she's uncircumcised. She's not even part of the covenant of God. And you want her? And the next thing we're going to find is they're going down there to go get her. How's that going to work out?
We in America put so much emphasis on look, body, etc., that what young people or what we young people especially is that body's not going to stay the same. I mean, I know Beverly said, what's it going to be like when he has her body, period. I'm sure she's thinking about me and watching.
Sure. Yeah.
Seriously, that's what people forget. What's it going to be like when we've been married for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years? How are we going to work with our children? How are we going to work together? And just think about, man, I tell you what,
the demeanor of Samson is constantly focused on the other. And the life of Samson is a life of regret. John the Baptist is a life focused on God. And God supernaturally gives him the strength to not have a physical significant other. And is John the Baptist a complete man? Absolutely. Absolutely. So the parental involvement should come at a point in which they come in for protection, although they realize there's a transfer that's happening, and ultimately they're making their decisions in terms of their life. But there's guidance there that can be provided for that. In that way, I would say, to Dennis's question, in that way, there should be an arrangement that's being discussed in terms of these things. If mom and dad then come in and say, I can't bless this marriage, now what is, or even if they say they can, because they can't say they can, even though Samson's parents are going down to make arrangements for this marriage, does Samson know that they're not blessing this marriage? He does. He does. But can a person say to the protector that God has given them, forget you, I'm going to do what I want to do? Yes. Yes. You can do it. You can do it. So, verse 5, Samson went down with his father and his mother. He came as far as the vineyards of Timnah. Behold, a young lion came roaring towards him. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily, so that he tore him as one tears a young goat, though he had nothing in his hand. He did not tell his father or his mother what he had done. So he went down and talked to the woman, and she looked good to Samson. When he returned later to take her, he turned aside to look at the carcass of the lion, and behold, a swarm of bees and honey were in the body of the lion. So he scraped the honey into his hands, went on eating as he went. When he came to his father and his mother, he gave some to them, and they ate, but they did not tell them that he had scraped the honey out of the body of the lion. What's a Nazarite doing going by way of vineyard? You know, you're supposed to stay. Nazarite vow, you're supposed to stay away from that. Why are you going? Mom and Dad's already gone down to do the pre-arrangements, and you're taking a little side trip to see what this is like. A little sightseeing tour. It won't hurt. But then all of a sudden, does this little sightseeing tour, what comes upon him? A lion, which the Spirit comes upon him, and he kills the lion. There's no inclination that he realizes this is necessarily some supernatural thing. He doesn't even tell his mom and dad about it. It may be that he didn't say to mom and dad about it because they'd say to him, what are you doing by the vineyard anyway? What are you doing over there anyway? Doesn't say anything to him about it. Goes goes to talk to the woman that is uncircumcised, that his mom and dad say you should stay away from. But he goes, he talks to her, and he likes what he sees. On his way back, goes past to take a look-see at the lion who is, he knows, dead, which he is not supposed to come in contact with. And there's honey in the carcass, and he doesn't just stay away from it now, he just goes ahead and gets him some. And shares. And shares. You can be at a distance from from things that you know you should stay away from, but you got a little draw to them, and you start down that path, and it takes you down a road, and one day you're going to look up, and you're going to say, how did I get here? The answer to that is you took a side trip way back here to go see a vineyard. Because you blew past the protection that God gave you days before that. It's an escalating thing we're going to find that goes on with Samson. And I'm telling you, I wish that everybody could stand where I stand. I wish that everybody could stand where I stand and could look out, because I could point to people and say, you're playing games. You're playing games. You're serious about this. You're iffy. But you're playing games. And you wish that you could go out and shake life into them. But you see where it's going. And when you see it, you know it, and you do everything you can to try and stop them, but you know that's where they're going. And you just pray to God that God stops them, because they're not listening to your words. They're not listening to your words. I can give you a list of people in this church that I've said that to. You're playing games. Not talking to me. You're playing games. And you look up 6, 8 months, a year from now, and guess what? Ain't nobody want to be where they're at. This is serious stuff. Sobering stuff. Samson, he's drawn to the flesh. He's drawn to the flesh. He doesn't have concerns really about the things of God in terms of the way of God. And you see it all through his life. So now he's not only turned aside, blown through his parents' protection, he's turned aside, he's on his own path, on his own journey, doesn't share with his parents, gives them some of the honey from a dead carcass, which they would never have been a part of. Doesn't say anything to them, and he's going now to his wedding, his Philistine wedding. His Philistine wedding. So his father, verse 10, went down to the woman. Samson made a feast there, for the young men customarily did this. When they saw him, they brought 30 companions to be with him. So he's at a Philistine. It's literally like a think about a pagan bachelor party. This is pretty close. Probably the drinking without the strip club. I mean, it's a drinking affair that he's going to, and so they're sending 30 Philistine companions to be there and be a part of the party with Samson. Samson said to them, "Let me now propound a riddle to you. If you will indeed tell it to me with the 7 days of the feast and find it out, then I will give you 30 linen wraps and 30 changes of clothes. But if you are unable to tell me, then you shall give me 30 linen wraps and 30 changes of clothes." And they said to him, "Propound your riddle that we may hear it." See, when you're playing games, this is no big deal. Touching the carcass, taking honey from a dead carcass, in a place where it shouldn't be, sharing it with my parents, no big deal. Let's just make light of it. Ultimately, that's what he's doing. We'll just make a riddle. We'll just make a riddle of it. What ultimately gets Samson's eyes gouged out and his arms tied to two pillars at a drunken Philistine, I'll just say it, orgy, where he is the clown. His riddles. So laugh it up. It's no big deal. Just laugh it up. No big deal. What is it? It's only 30 linen, basically 30 pieces of clothes. What's the big deal? So you don't see it at the beginning, but people who've lived through it see the end. Say that's where you're going to end up. So let me share with you a little riddle. And he says to them, "Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet." They couldn't tell him the riddle in 3 days. It came about on the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife, "Entice your husband so that he will tell us the riddle, or we will burn you and your father's house with fire. Have you invited us to impoverish us? Is this not so?" Well, that's kind of harsh. If I lose this bet, it's going to cost each. Think about this. If I lose this bet, if those 30 guys lose that bet, it's going to cost each one of them one set of clothes. And they come to his potential wife and say, "You find out what the riddle is, or we're going to burn you, your father, and your house down." And guess what? They mean it. They mean it. This is like mafia stuff. Don't mess with the family, right? So it came about on the fourth day that they said that to her. Verse 16, Samson's wife wept before him and said, "You only hate me. Do you not love me? You have propounded a riddle to the sons of my people and have not told it to me." And he said to her, "Behold, I've not told it to my father or my mother. So should I tell you? I've kept secrets from my parents. Why should I tell you?" Well, what's the first secret he kept from his parents? He kept, the very thing. He kept the very thing from his parents because he wasn't supposed to be doing that to begin with. So, I mean, he's getting deeper and deeper and deeper into it. See, when you start moving that direction, this is the scariest thing about this. When you start moving in that direction, you start becoming self-deceived. A person can't come in here and tell you the truth because you really believe your lie. And you become so self-deceived that you don't believe what another person is saying to you or another person's warning to you or what's going on, actually truly going on in your own personal life, because you've gone down this road so much that it's just become natural habit and pattern. I didn't tell my parents, why would I tell you? She's, bawling in front of him. "You don't love me." They're not even married yet, and she's bawling in front of him. "You don't love me. You don't love me." This is on day 4. So, she's got till day 7 before the bet becomes real. So day 4, she's crying, "You don't love me, you don't love me, you don't love me." Verse 17. However, she wept before him 7 days while their feast lasted. On the 7th day, he told her because she pressed him so hard. She then told the riddle to the sons of her people. Strongest man that ever lived got worn down by this constant. How does Proverbs talk about this? Better live in the corner of the housetop. Yeah. It's what's a constant dripping. Where do they get that idea of a constant dripping? Day after day she came, she wept, "You don't love me, you don't love me, you don't love me." It's the final hour, and he can't take it anymore, and he tells her the riddle. Quite possibly, I'll tell her the riddle. She's only got to keep the secret for a few hours. So I'll get by with this, right? I'll get by with this. That's the other thing that you see. When sin and wrongdoing isn't called into check, you feel like there's no check. It's not gonna catch up with me. And the reason sometimes you think that is because you've gotten by with it so many times without there any being real consequences, that now when you don't experience consequences of your actions, you feel like there are really no true consequences to wrong actions. That's why a parent cannot save his child from every wrongdoing that they ever do. A good parent will actually let them face the consequences of what they've done because it's actually good for them, lest they feel like there's no consequences. Right? She's only got to keep her tongue for a few hours. So surely I can... See, now, think about it. If you're him, this is just me. If you're him, I can have both ends. Because I can, before this bet comes to play, I can tell her, which shows her I love her, she's only got to keep her tongue for a few hours, and then I still win the bet with those guys. You know she's not going to hold her tongue, right? So she told the riddle to the sons of her people. Verse 18, the men of the city said to him on the seventh day before the sun went down, what's sweeter than honey? What's stronger than a lion? He said to them, if you had not plowed with my heifer, you would have not found out my riddle. Now, you know, there's so many places we can go there, but the reason that he calls her a heifer is not because, you know, he's mad and, you know, that heifer, you know. What is a heifer in their culture? It's an untamed implement, if you will. It's wild and stubborn. It's funny that he would use that. You got to my undisciplined future wife. Who's undisciplined? Yeah. Samson's saying what? Whose fault is it? Samson doesn't look in the mirror and say, I should have kept my mouth shut and not said anything to her. Samson says, whose fault is it? You and hers. You conspired against me. He's a simpleton. He's a Proverbs foolish man. Yeah. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily. He went down to Ashkelon, killed 30 of them, took their spoil, gave the changes of clothes to those who told the riddle, and his anger burned, and he went up to his father's house. So it really doesn't cost him anything. He goes far enough away that they're not going to find out that he was the one who killed other Philistines. So he moves far enough away. He kills 30 Philistines, gets their clothes, brings them to pay the debt, and then it's as if he's almost leaving her at the altar because he's ticked and is going home. When Samson delivers Israel, it's generally out of anger of revenge because he feels like he'd been done wrong. And so now he does this. He takes off back home, right? Leaves her there. Samson's wife was given to his companion who had been his friend. So basically, the father, to save face, gives her to his best man to keep honor within the family. But we're just going to go just a few verses here in 15. But after a while, in the time of wheat harvest, Samson visited his wife with a young goat and said, I will go to my wife in her room. But her father did not let him enter. Her father said, I really thought that you hated her intensely. That term hated is divorced. When you left the way that you did, her father says, I thought you divorced her. So I gave her to another man. So I gave her to your companion. Is not her younger sister more beautiful than she? Please let her be yours instead. Samson then said to them, This time I will be blameless, which means underneath all of it, what does he know about the first time? See, when he's going through it, not my fault, not my fault. You did this. You know, I'm the one who's been done wrong. Then all of a sudden, the next time he says, well, this time I'll be blameless. Oh, Samson, who's the one who got mad and left? What, wasn't that you? So yes, this time I'll be blameless. So yeah, I was kind of guilty the time before, but not this time. But oh, by the way, Samson, yeah, this time you're to blame too, because It wasn't like you took responsibility for the woman who you said you was going to take her hand. In regard to the Philistines, when I do them harm, Samson went and caught 300 foxes, took torches, turned the fox's tail to tail, put one torch in the middle between the two tails. When he had set fire to the torches, he released the foxes and the standing grain of the Philistines, burned up the shocks, the standing grain, along with vineyards and groves. So basically, he wipes out the Philistines, all of their harvest. There are three main ways of having a harvest. Philistines said, "Who did this?" And they said, "Samson, the son-in-law of the Timonite, because he took his wife and gave her to his companion." So the Philistines came up and did what? Burned her and her father's house. What did the Philistines first threaten her with? Tell us the riddle or we're going to what? Burn you, your father, and the house. Now all of a sudden what happens? Yeah. Samson said to them, "Since you acted like this, I will surely take revenge on you, but after that I will quit." He struck them ruthlessly with a great slaughter, and he went down and lived in the cleft of the rock at Edom. Man. If it weren't such a struggle for us, we would say, how could a guy do that, all that, right? Yeah. And we get to the end, we're going to have to say, why is Samson the climax of the book? Why is Samson the climax of the book? And I'll close with this. One of the real reasons why you can rest when we talk about Hebrews, and we talked about chapter 6, and the first part of chapter 6, and we said that's not talking about works in terms of loss of salvation being based upon works, is because when we get to the Hall of Fame of faith, guess who's there? Samson. And you can't look at his life and say, well, he is the model of success. No, it's not that. So, yeah, real struggles for a judge who had so much promising potential in terms of the things that were available to him. But God is not one who sees or has to have the outside physical aspects of a person. It's what's going on in the heart. Yeah, what's going on in that person's heart. And that's the things that matter. And they eventually will flow and come out. So, all right, let's pray. Father God, what a incredible account, just an account of really just a sobering thing for us to stop and just a red light, flashing red light in terms of you progressing your plan, really just in spite of ourselves. And so, Father, I pray that to what level this needs to scare us, I pray that it would bring about that level of fear just for us to be sober, not for us to have fear and live in fear, but for us to be sober about the things that matter and the accounts that you give us, for us to really just stop and sit up and really just see our need of you. And so, Father, I pray more than anything that if we see these struggles with a person like Samson, we recognize that it's at a minimum possible for us. And we would see that weakness in ourselves and bring that weakness to you and trust you in faith to work that weakness out of us for us to be strong in you, in the faith for your glory. These things we pray, Father, in your Son's holy name. Amen.